fire drill. It threw our timing off a few minutes, so apologize for starting a little late. Would you call the roll?
Board Member Kaiser. Present. Board Member Anderson.
Likewise.
Board Member Nanke.
Here.
Board Member Leung is absent. Board Member Ossick is absent. Board Member Hoy.
Here.
Board Member Nordike. Here. And Board Member Lewis.
Here.
And Chair Bennett.
Here, thank you. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have no one signed up to speak to the Urban Renewal Agency. Anyone want to talk to the Urban Renewal Agency? Consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
The consent calendar consists of item 3.1A, the draft February 24th, 2020 Urban Renewal Agency minutes. Item 3.3A, which initiates the creation of the Jory Apartments TIF district on the former Oregon State Hospital North Campus. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to comment on 3.3A. I think that's a terrific deal, and my congratulations to the developer, which is Mountain West, as well as the city staff, which worked very hard on this. And this is a terrific deal, I think, for everybody, and it gets us some more affordable housing, which is what we're really looking for in the city.
You? No?
Ditto.
Okay. Ditto?
That's my one.
Very good. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Very good. Kristen, did you have anything you wanted to report? No? Okay. Great. Without objection, okay, we're adjourned. This will be just a few minutes to get Councilor Leung on the phone. Call this meeting of the Salem City Council for March 9th to order. You call a roll.
Councilor Kaiser. Present. Councilor Anderson.
Ditto.
Councilor Nanke. Here. Councilor Leung. Here. Councilor Ossick is absent. Councilor Hoy. He's present. Councilor Nordike. Here. Councilor Lewis.
Here.
And Mayor Bennett.
Here. You're counting Hoy here, right? Good, okay. Excellent. Let's wait for a second here. You wanna? Okay. Okay, we have no additions or deletions, as I understand it, Councilor Hoy?
Correct.
Okay. Council manager comments. Just a few comments I wanted to make. We've had a really concerning, I know for a lot of citizens, report that there is a coronavirus case in Marion County. We were notified of that this weekend by the governor's office, also contacted by members of the Senate, the United States Senate, United States House that are in our delegation offering any assistance we may need here at the city level. The resident of Marion County is not from Salem. We're going to take a few minutes and have the fire chief and our emergency services chief speak to this. Did you want to speak first?
No, just that for the attendees, for the public, and those who are watching, emergency management is assigned to the Salem Fire Department for the city. So Mike and Greg are our points of contact, our liaisons with the public health agencies that are really in the lead for this emergency issue that's facing the country, the world, and is increasing here in Oregon.
Chief?
Thank you, City Manager, Mayor, City Council members. Everything I'm about to tell you is available on the Oregon Health Authority website. So that is a really good place to go. If you want to be updated on what's going on day to day, you can even give them your email and they'll send you a notice every day of what's happening. I'm happy to report that today, just a few minutes ago, they sent out their report for March 9th, and there are no new cases of COVID-19 in Oregon for today. Marion County Health is our lead agency on this, and they have activated their Department Operations Center, and they're actively monitoring the situation. The Oregon Health Authority has activated its incident management team, and Governor Brown, as you know, declared an emergency on Sunday, which activated the State Emergency Coordination Center through Oregon Emergency Management. So all those agencies are working together in coordination with local healthcare providers, first responders, to have a united front on how we address this in our community. Locally, about 2 weeks ago, we activated our response to emerging infectious disease protocol. This is an emerging disease because it's new. It's not the flu, it's not something else, it's a new thing to the humans. So we've got several things that we are doing locally through the dispatch center, asking certain questions as people call in, so that we can make sure that our responders have the right personal protective equipment when they respond to somebody's house, so we can protect them and the community from further spread. So our folks are if they answer the questions in a certain way, obviously with certain symptoms that are for coronavirus, then we take those precautions. We communicate with the hospital. The hospital then, once they're in medical care, they make the decisions whether they need to be tested. Not everybody who's sick needs to be tested, and we'll go into that in just a second. We already talked about the emergency. Know the symptoms. What are the symptoms of COVID-19? A cough, a fever, and shortness of breath are the three main symptoms that you would have with this. What can you do? And I know you've heard this, and it's going to sound just like it sounds the first time. Wash your hands. Wash your hands for 20 seconds. Keep your hands clean. Soap and water. If you don't have soap and water, use a 60% alcohol hand sanitizer in the worst case scenario. It's better to wash your hands, though, and wash your hands a lot. As I look around the room right now, a lot of people are touching their faces. Your eyes, nose, and mouth are the entryway for viruses into your system. So if you can consciously keep your hands off your face, which is hard to do when you start thinking about how many times you touch your face a day, you reduce your potential to get viruses, any virus, as well as a COVID-19 virus. Let's see, the next thing here. The other thing you can do, if you feel like you need to do something, a lot of people, what can I do, what can I do? You can get 2 weeks ready. This is a campaign that we've had in the city, and we're relying the focus on that. This is a perfect time to be 2 weeks ready. If you have to be self-quarantined at your home for 14 days, you need to have the supplies there. So it's not a bad idea to start thinking about that. Another thing you can practice is social distancing. Right now, their advice they're giving is for older folks who have a suppressed immune system, heart and breathing difficulties, diabetes, conditions like that, are more susceptible to getting a more serious case of COVID-19 if they're exposed. So it's a personal health decision if you want to avoid large gatherings, or you don't shake hands with people. And it's okay not to shake hands. You can fist bump, you can elbow bump, you can just say hello and smile at them. You don't have to shake hands. So those are all things that you can do yourself. And if you're ill, stay home. If you don't feel well, stay home. Just practice a little bit of self-quarantine and get yourself healthy before you get back in your work environment or your school environment. Most people who get COVID-19 will have mild symptoms. The majority of people will have mild symptoms. Not everyone who is sick needs to be tested. But if you think you are sick or you have COVID-19, you need to contact your local health department or your physician for direction on how you could do that. What you don't need to do is go down to your local doctor's office and walk into the clinic and cough all over everybody, and if you test positive, you've just exposed all those people to COVID-19. So be aware of those type of situations. The same thing with the emergency room. And the last thing I would say, if you have an urgent medical issue, you call 911, and they're going to ask you those questions. We're going to wear PPE when we come if you meet those criteria, and we'll get you the medical help you need, and they'll take care of you in the emergency room until they get a test of that. And I know a lot of people are concerned about the test kits. They are producing more test kits, and I understand that with the governor's emergency, at some point they'll be able to have your own doctor will be able to prescribe a test. They're somewhat limited now because there's not very many of them. But like I said, most people will have mild symptoms. Some people will have it, not even know they have it. They'll have a cold, have a runny nose, a cough, they'll be sick a couple of days, and then they're done. They don't even know they have it. So that's why this is so tricky, and it's very infectious and it spreads. So with that, I want to allow our emergency manager an opportunity to put a plug in for 2 weeks ready, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor, City Council, thank you very much for having me tonight. I just wanted to provide a very brief update on the Mayor's Resiliency Task Force. And this is the program that we established starting January 1st of this year. And since January 1st, I have trained 491 people. That's the count of people in seats. That was over 17 classes. Now, we have also completed the 1-hour preparedness video, which is one of those other tasks, was to be able to have that available online. We shared that on Facebook last week, and we've actually seen 105 views since. And the presentation I gave this afternoon to 115 people over in the Realty convention that was at the convention center, they actually now have that link and want to share that and use that in their own businesses. So it's spreading the good word. And then I also have established Train the Trainer classes, 2 classes in April, so we can get more of those community members, CERT members and otherwise, to be able to provide that 2 weeks ready training. And as far as our partners go, I don't have the exact numbers from them yet, but I have asked them, and in just verbal conversations, a lot of them have said that they probably have a couple hundred each. So we've had a lot more community members getting the training to be 2 weeks ready, and also COVID-19 has been another great opportunity to raise awareness of the need to be 2 weeks ready as we talk about a 14-day home quarantine. So thank you very much.
Well, Greg, it appears to be working. You go to a lot of stores right now, at least over the past week. It's been difficult to find water. It's been difficult, if not impossible, to find hand sanitizer. And for some reason, you have driven home a toilet paper need that resulted in a scarcity of that product. So whatever you're telling them appears to be helping out. Chief, do you have enough gear for your first responders for their protection?
Yes, so we initially, when we had the bird flu, the avian flu, a few years ago.
Was that a couple of diseases
viruses ago?
Yeah.
It was Ebola was between that and the bird flu.
Okay.
So, these new viruses come and they, eventually they level out. And but we do have a pandemic supply. We invested in a pandemic supply of gowns and masks. Really don't have expiration dates. So we've got a very large supply of those types of things. And every apparatus is equipped with 10 kits, PPE kits with the gloves, and so we've got everything all ready to go on all the rigs. And then we've got a laminated card that goes with the responders. So all the questions are written down for them when they get there. If they see something that's, doesn't look right to them, one of the things they'll do really quickly is they'll put a mask on the patient, which limits the amount of particles they can spray out of their mouth when they're coughing, whether that's a non-rebreather mask or an N95 mask. So that helps protect our folks as well. And we only put one person in the back of the ambulance for transports on, we have a presumptive case. So we try to limit the exposure. And then we have a full decon procedure. So right now, we have everything we need to respond to this. As you mentioned earlier, there's no cases in Salem right now. And we hope it stays that way. As the more test kits come out, we may see a spike in numbers as people get tested that are having the mild symptoms, and they realize they need to quarantine at home and then get a negative test before they come back. But a lot of people can self-care at home, just like the flu. You can take care of it at home unless you get into the point where you're having really bad breathing difficulties, and then of course you want to call 911 if that's the case.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor White.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, not on this topic, on just councilor comments.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Councilor Nordyke and I recently had the opportunity to visit United Way, and I wanted to just kind of highlight a couple of things that they're doing there, some really great work. They have senior cottages that they're developing, which are kind of like tiny homes, but really remarkably well done, and encourage people to take a look at those when they get the opportunity. Also, they're working on the is it community response unit, the CREW, which is the Cahoots-like model that they're starting to develop, and then also the Safe Sleep program. So they have 3 really critical programs that they're working on, and I know they're going to be doing some fundraising. So I would ask anybody in the community who really is looking for a tangible way to help with our homeless crisis, if you're really looking for something that will make a difference, those are some programs that could actually really make a difference. And so I know if you look on their website, you'll find a way to help with that. So I would encourage folks to do that. Also, I just wanted to mention, I recently, at our neighborhood association meeting, heard from the folks who own the Willamette Town Center, formerly known as Lancaster Mall. And if you haven't been there lately, I would really encourage you to take a visit out in Ward 6 at the Willamette Town Center. There's a lot of great things going on there. It's almost fully occupied. There's a couple of vacancies. They're building a new building along Lancaster where there's going to be a Panera Bread. There's going to be a Mod Pizza out there that's going in the next few months. There are a lot of really great things. DMV is moving to the other side of the mall over where the Sears Auto Center used to be. So the building that DMV's in currently will be coming down, and the TJ Maxx will be going over there with the entrance to TJ Maxx near where the DMV is currently. So anyway, a lot of exciting things happening out there at the Willamette Town Center. I just wanted to highlight it for folks.
Great, thank you very much. Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to echo the comments that Councilor Hoy mentioned. I will echo everything that's been said about United Way. Between the Community Response Unit, the senior cottages, and Safe Sleep, there are a lot of great things going on at United Way. And these are ways for us to all be a part of the solution to addressing homelessness. We actually toured one of these senior cottages. It's 330 square feet. And it's an all-inclusive unit. It's got a kitchen, it has a bathroom, it has a bed, it has a fully enclosed living space, including a washer and dryer. So at 330 square feet, you can actually have a pretty decent place to be. And I see that that is increasingly a solution and an option for a variety of individuals, especially low-income seniors. Unfortunately, as we know, seniors are one of the fastest growing segments of homeless today, and that's because many of them are on a fixed income. They may only be getting $1,000 a month, $1,100 a month, somewhere in that range, and they could easily be spending over a third of their income on their rent or whatever their housing situation may be. So I look forward to continuing to work with Councilor Hoy and United Way and others to support these projects.
Councilor Anderson.
2 brief comments before I go on to my other comments that I have prepared. I certainly agree with my fellow councilors who have spoken. I actually saw these about 3 months ago at United Way. They're terrific, and I also know that United Way, with the help of some very community oriented private citizens are doing everything they can to actually get these homes on site at 2 different places in the city. So I think that's a terrific thing. And I might add that I wasn't here. This relates to what the fire chief and the risk manager were, because I just got back last night from 3 weeks in Asia. But I want to tell everybody in the council that I wore my mask all the way from Paro, Bhutan, to Bangkok, to South Korea. Yeah, so I haven't touched anybody, and I've tried to stay away. And I'll try to stay awake tonight, too. 2 general comments. The first one is, in May, we have an employee payroll tax that the council referred to the voters. And I'm hoping that the councilors who decided to refer it to the voters are out speaking to various organizations about this at luncheons, at community meetings, at their neighborhood groups. I've spoken to most of my neighborhood groups in favor of it. I've spoken at City Watch in favor of it. I've spoken at the City Club in favor of it. And I've spoken before the Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee in favor of the tax. So I know and am sure that all the councilors are out there doing the same thing, and I hope we can pass the ordinance overwhelmingly with the support of the public. And I know the councilors who referred it to the public said the public has always come through at various tax measures, so I'm hoping that the public comes through again here. The last thing I want to talk about is starting to sound like a broken record. We've had another pedestrian bike fatality here in Salem. The gentleman was named Mario Lopez. He was 44 years old, and about 11:30 at night, he was walking his bike by the side of the road on McGillcrest, and the driver who hit him, not the car, the driver hit him. He told the police he was leaning over to pick up his cell phone, which, why would you want to use your cell phone in the car? Yeah, and so to me, this just points out the importance to the public that the warnings by police and other community leaders: do not use your cell phone when you're driving. That's an offense. And fortunately, from what I read in the paper, the driver was a hit and run, and he should be congratulated by turning himself in later, and he has been charged with criminally negligent homicide. And I think we'll see what happens at the trial, but I think that's an appropriate charge. Whether he's guilty of that, that'll be wait to see what the trial happens. But it sure seems to me that this is another warning that it's not speed, as I talk about now, but it's inattentive drivers. And that's the problem, not the problem of people walking on the side of the road where they're allowed to be. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Kaiser.
Thank you. Just wanted to, shout out to the First Citizens Banquet that Councilor Hoy, myself, Councilor Nanke, and Mayor Bennett attended Saturday night. This is put on by the Chamber of Commerce annually. It was great to meet a lot of folks and catch up with others I haven't seen in a while, and really have a time to celebrate some of the great things happening in the community. So it was a really fun event, and yeah.
Anyone else? All righty, we'll move on then. I have no proclamations. There's no presentations. We'll move to public comment. All righty, Brooke Jackson. Remember, 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, the orange light goes on, and at 3, I would just ask you to please stop talking, and also ask that you not applaud or shout or jump up and down. Just let's all try to hold our seats and be calm. Brooke, go ahead.
Mayor Bennett, Mayor Bennett, members of the City Council, thank you for your service to our community. My name is Brooke Jackson, and I am a resident of the 3rd Ward. Of one thing I am certain. We, the citizens of Salem, including all of us here in this room, are united in our concern about our city's growing homelessness crisis. We all of us, want solutions to this growing problem. That's much better, thank you. Although we may differ in opinion about what is the best course of action, we all agree that something needs to change. We would like to see action from this body that will make things better for all of Salem's citizens. Our businesses are struggling, our unsheltered people are suffering, and all of us are frustrated. The City Council has resurrected the proposal to ban sitting and lying on public sidewalks with a clever rebranding of a sidewalk behavior ordinance. The new name might play well in the news, but we're still talking about the sit-lie ban. The facts of the matter are clear, and they are this. Number 1, the ordinances target at the unsheltered citizens residing on Salem's downtown sidewalks. Let me say it again, it targets the homeless. For this and other reasons, the $250 fine proposed as part of the ordinance is obscene. $250 would be a hardship on an average family. It is an impossible sum for vulnerable citizens. Moreover, cars get free parking downtown for up to 3 hours. If a car sits too long, the fine is $25. But if my butt lands on the sidewalk for even 60 seconds, I could be fined 10 times as much. Will the ordinance be equally enforced on all people downtown? Of course not. The ordinance targets the unsheltered people. It will be used to shuffle them around and to penalize them. Fact number 2, there are not enough indoor spaces for the unsheltered to go during the day or night. There are not enough day rooms and not enough shelter beds right now. If the ordinance passes, the homeless will be standing and walking on public sidewalks. They will sit on public benches, the outdoor tables and chairs of restaurants downtown. They'll be in parking garages and on private property. My dear friends who own businesses downtown, I hear you. I feel your frustration. I know your concerns. And if you're planning this evening to stand up and support the ordinance, I would beg you to reconsider. Because without places for people to go, enacting the ordinance will not resolve the frustrations. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, please revisit your previous decisions. The council needs to repeal the camping ban and temporarily designate spaces where the homeless can congregate and camp in small numbers. There are more beds and gathering places under construction in Salem, so with a little patience, we will soon see some relief of this problem. And with a little compassion, we can do more towards ending homelessness in Salem. But in the meantime, please don't make things worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Did anyone have any questions? All righty. George Smith, followed by Pamela Lyons Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm an unhoused veteran. My name is George Smith. I live in Wallace Marine Park. And I'm here to talk about the sit-lie ban. I think we should consider why we have people on the sidewalk. Because we enacted a camping ban. And they had to get out there by arches and off the street. So they had to go somewhere. So they went downtown. Well, if you kick them out of downtown, there's nowhere they're going to go. I'm camping at Wallace Marine Park, me and my wife for 40 years. She's 61 years old. She doesn't need to be out there. But Wallace is going to kick us out. They've already given us a warning. They're getting ready for their softball season. They don't want us out there. So if we don't rescind the camping ban, at least in industrial areas, let us set up small camps. You know, we're going to have to go somewhere. And if Wallace kicks us out, I'm coming down on the sidewalk. You're going to have to arrest me. I mean, you know, I got nowhere to go. And I can't, you know, my wife's not in good health. She's a good woman. She doesn't deserve this, you know. I'm an old Marine. I can take whatever you give me. It don't matter. But, you know, let's just think about it. We kicked them off. We put the camping ban in. They went downtown. Okay, now if we put the sit-lie ordinance in, you're not giving them much choice. Just rescind the camping ban in industrial. We don't want them downtown. We don't want them by arches. It's an eyesore. I mean, this is my hometown. I've been here over 55 years. It makes me sick to see them downtown there on the sidewalks. I mean, this is the capital city. This should be the showplace of this city, of this state. You know, this shouldn't be the ghetto. But let's move them out in the industrial areas. Let's get them going. Like I say, we got these little tiny house things going on. That is just amazing. Let's, you know, but it's not going to happen. Not today, not tomorrow. So I'm just asking you, before you consider banning sit-lie, let's get a motion on down. You know, appeal that camping ban and let some of these people get out of sight. We We just as soon be out of sight. You know, we don't like people driving by honking at us, yelling and screaming profanities at us. You know, I'm just asking for compassion. We don't want no money. We just want a little compassion. You know, just give us a place to go and we'll get out of the way. We'll be glad to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Pamela Lyons Nelson, Ward 1. Well, I don't have one new thing to say. I'm just going to be the broken record. And that is, the sit-lie will not do long-term or even medium-term what it says it's going to do, what we want it to do. It is a travesty. It is inhumane. It is cruel. And that isn't who we are in Salem. The camping ban and sit-lie do not really play all that well together. They address different problems, related problems in that they address the same population. But having the sit-lie isn't going to solve the problem of where do people go at night. Where people go during the day and where people go during the night are two separate problems. So, once again, I'm going to say, put off sit-lie. Put it off until Salem has provided adequate restroom facilities in every part of the town that is affected by homelessness, but specifically downtown. Go ahead and get storage facilities so people can take advantage of the beds that there are without having to try to move 2 grocery carts a mile and a half out to Church in the Park, which is really the only shelter that's open. And in 2.5 weeks, it will be closed also, because that's the end of the season for our roaming centers. And then there's nothing at night. We have to remember that. So we've got problems that are coming up, and we've got some solutions that are coming up. But they aren't anywhere close to doing what we want it to do, which is to have a compassionate, humane system to deal with this. We've had 12 years of crisis happening. We've known since the housing crisis struck that this was going to be a long-range problem, and we needed solutions for that, and that included building housing for people who were going to be kicked out of where they lived. We've known that for 12 years. And still, we don't have adequate rent support programs. We don't have adequate housing. So even if someone does get housing, they need rent support for a while until they can get employed and get on their feet, get through the trauma of having gone through this hell as long as they have.
Thank you, Pamela. Dana Vucteveen and Daniel Roslin. Then Laura Crowfoot.
Good evening, I'm Dana Vucteveen, 401 Center Street, Ward 1, Salem Center Shopping Center. Thank you for the opportunity to come up here one more time and present my views that we need to pass the sit-lie ordinance immediately, with or without the provisions regarding additional shelter space for day spaces. Your economic base, the businesses in the downtown region are all at risk. We cannot wait any longer. We are patient people, but this problem needs to be resolved. I know this is not a magical solution for homelessness, and I know the council is working on many good things that are coming down the road that still cost money and time. Some of that money is going to be tied up until the legislature decides to come back to work. We urge you to pass it so we can protect our businesses downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Daniel, then Laura Crowfoot, then Laurie Walker.
Dan Roslin, Ward 2. With the following remarks, I am representing the Salem Homeless Coalition. We believe that passing a sit-lie ordinance with or without daytime provisions will have serious negative consequences, and here's why. It is very likely that no matter where people go between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m., that they will return to Rite Aid's overhang and other downtown locations that offer some rain protection every night. The overnight situation on these sidewalks is dangerous. The people are sitting ducks for drug dealers, robbery of their few precious belongings, and bad weather. Their weakened immune systems make them particularly susceptible to the corona and other viruses. Without portable toilets or trash receptacles, urination and defecation on the sidewalks will continue, and a crew would have to clean the sidewalks every day after 7 a.m. in order to return them to a sanitary condition and an appearance that would satisfy the business community and downtown shoppers. The cost of daily downtown sidewalk cleaning and possible overcovered area at Marion Square Park could be as high as $186,000 per month and will not protect the folks sleeping on sidewalks from harm or disease. No one will be happy with these results. Moreover, the use of a covered area at Marion Square Park will place people at close quarters. This invites a real health disaster, especially now during the coronavirus crisis. If the virus spreads among our homeless population, this puts the entire Salem area at risk. So how to give people a safe place to sleep each night away from the downtown sidewalks and doorways? It's simple, and you've heard it many times from the experts like Jimmy Jones. Reverse the ban on tent camping. This would allow people to put some distance between themselves and their houseless neighbors, get them out of the elements, and give them a chance to become healthier. Such a decision could include a downtown camping exclusion. We urge you to take a second look at Rebecca Beeman's document, Considered Camping in IG Zoned Areas, added to your packet at the January 10th City Council meeting. This was very well considered, well thought out, and she showed you the slides that represented the areas. Whatever your decision, please, please consider it carefully, especially any unintended consequences that may result. The whole of Salem, and we mean everyone, is counting on you to make a wise, carefully thought out choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Crowcroft, followed by Lori Walker, followed by Brandon Eastman.
Hello, my name is Laura Crowfoot. I live in West Salem. I've worked downtown for 31 years, and the number of homeless in the last few years, the increase in our community is alarming. Seeing them sleeping out in the elements without any kind of shelter, I can't even imagine not having a safe place to sleep, to eat, to even go potty. So I've heard some refer to the downtown corridor as an eyesore and worrying about our image because we are the capital, and saying that they feel afraid to walk in the crowded streets downtown. Well, you know what I worry about when I see all of these people with nowhere to be is, where is our humanity? When is it enough? Our knee-jerk response should be to ask ourselves, what does this problem, why is it getting worse? Where are the folks coming from? What do they need? What can we do to help? What's at the root problem? What do they have, or what do we have that they don't? Housing. They are without a home. Let that sink in. I don't let my pets sleep outside overnight. Why? Because it feels abusive. We cannot become numb to it because we're getting used to seeing it and hearing about it. Let's not make their lives harder with the sit-lie ruling. I don't know about you all, but I drove here in my car with seat warmers parked a few feet away to get here, and I'll do the reverse when I leave this meeting. But think about what it takes for our unhoused neighbors, even just to get here. How many personal belongings do they have to wheel up here or carry on their back or leave behind so that they could attend and participate? How many are missing their opportunity for a meal, or missing a curfew, or losing their place in line for somewhere sheltered to sleep tonight? Their being here is testimony enough that they want to be part of the solution, and they're hoping on some mercy from all of us. What changed that made this issue so much more in our faces? Was it the camping ban? Now that we're unable to get, or now that they're unable to get completely out of the elements or take some form of shelter in tents or under tarps, although those conditions are not what each of us wish or deserve, it's better than how they've been forced to exist today. And a bonus is it would bring some relief to the store owners. Although it's just a start, we know it's a complex issue and we don't have to solve it tonight. But how about we do something that's within our power? Or maybe I say within your power. Rescind the camping ban. The unintended consequences are taking a toll on everyone involved. We've heard that over and over again. It was tried, and it looks like it's not going to work. So there's a saying that I have to remind myself often.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay,
Thank
thank you.
Lori? And then Brandon Eastman, then Kelly McDonald.
I am Lori Walker, advocate, Scan Neighborhood Ward 2. Over 40 years in Salem. I'm also a legal guardian of a formerly homeless, mentally ill person. I retired from the state hospital. I have volunteered with homeless in Salem for over 5 years. My focus on unsheltered people in Salem is knowing that everyone has a loved one, sibling, parent, child, grandchild in need of assistance. Every time after I testify here or talk at Pringle Hall or wherever I go, people contact me later and tell me how thankful they are that somebody is speaking up for their loved ones who are homeless on the streets of Salem because they don't have the nerve to do it. So that's quite interesting thing too. They are us. They are all someone's loved ones. I am against the sit-lie for many reasons. Mentally ill and mentally disabled do not normally wear watches. Most of them do not understand the concept of not being downtown during certain times. Marion County Mental Health does not have caseworker, nurses, etc. on the streets to assist people who don't know that they're too sick to need help. There is so far no designated or approved places for people to sit, lie, or camp. The state hospital keeps releasing people to our streets, and then some in Salem say they can't be there. Will the city tell the state that they can't release them to our streets? This ordinance would hurt people more than they are already hurting. We do not have enough mental health facilities to help people. If they commit a crime, they may get the help they need if the crime is a felony. By then, the damage is done. The mental health system is broken, and we could be making it worse for a lot of people.
Thank you, Lori. Brandon Eastman, Kelly McDonald, then Patrick Carney.
Hello, my name is Brandon Eastman. I own Bentley's Coffee. We are getting ready to open up downtown Salem. I wasn't aware I was going to be speaking tonight, so I had a good friend sign me up. I know that the homeless issue is a big one, and of course the location that we're taking over is the former Starbucks, which was there for 29 years. And I know that Starbucks left because there was a lot of issues with the homeless. And I wouldn't say that I have a solution for it, but I do know that there's a big problem. It is going to be something difficult that we're all going to have to overcome together. The only recommendation that I would have would be some sort of military tents and MREs on some sort of property, maybe near downtown, in some of our parks or something like that. I think that if it's good enough for our military bases overseas, that it should be good enough to house some of our homeless, and maybe that's a solution. But that said, I'm just looking forward to being part of the downtown community and helping you guys move forward with something and helping everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Kelly McDonald, followed by Patrick Carney, followed by Tyler Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. My name is Kelly McDonald. I'm a homeowner in Ward 8. But I want to speak to you a little bit about some of the service work that I've done for a community in McMinnville, Oregon. I was on the Chamber Board for 11 years. I was a founding member of the Economic Development Department Board. Currently sit on the Urban Renewal Advisory Committee. and I serve on the Economic Opportunity Analysis Advisory Committee. And we dealt with the same situation in McMinnville, and I've recently polled our counselors, our police chief, our downtown, as many people as I could find, because we did pass a camping ban that had hours related to 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. To deal with the situation of mass groupings of people in public places that became, people here have said unsightly. I've heard social distancing tonight, and the letting that environment continue was not in their best interest either. And I agree that there's no short-term solution, and this council is not going to solve homelessness. And a lot of work has to be done. But I also heard tonight testimony that we've been working on this for decades, 12 years recently, she just said. So there's a lot of things that need to happen to address the situation with people living on the streets, and I get that. But to allow what's happening in downtown Salem to continue is a potential economic disaster for this community. It saddens me to see it just dragging on and on and on without resolve. And I think there were some unintended consequences in the camping ban. I think that's what kind of forced the situation in downtown. And so I've heard people talk about revoking that ban or whatnot, and I will be honest, I don't know the details of that ban, so I couldn't testify to that. I would like to see the sit-lie hours portion move forward. I think a lot of what you hear, the definition of sit-lie, is that people need a place to rest and whatnot, but that's not what's happening. I see a lot of times I drive through town and there's not even people around, and there's just multiple carts and piles of stuff on the street, and that doesn't speak to the issue of sit-lie. That's just a disaster, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't bode well for the economy, for citizens of this community. They're being held hostage by that. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. Any questions? Just a sec, Kelly. Councilor Lewis has a question.
Thanks. I'm curious, does McMinnville still have a current sit-and-lie ordinance?
Yes.
And how long has it been in existence?
It was passed, I think it was like sometime this last summer. So.
Okay, pretty recent. Do you know if there's been any suit filed against it?
It has not been challenged to this point, correct.
And did you say that you have a camping ban and that's still in existence?
That's part of the sit-lie.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we're dealing with is one of the situations that we're dealing with, besides people in the downtown and just other areas, was a lot of mobile camping, jamming up the streets, preventing access and whatnot. And so the ban became such that they had to move after 6:30 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, because we were getting situations where we had like 30 RVs on a street and just mass taking over. So they originally passed an ordinance to not allow it at all, which was then challenged. It wasn't enforced because it was challenged by other jurisdictions. But the daytime camping part has not been challenged.
Okay, thanks.
Patrick Carney.
Hi, Patrick Carney, Ward 8, and I echo the words of Dana, who testified earlier as far as being in support of the ordinance. And I guess my view of the ordinance is it's a starting point to clear the streets and bring some law and order back to downtown, where right now it's chaos. Outside of the building that we own downtown, we have zombie carts now that are left. Every morning, they're abandoned. They're there all day. Sometimes, I guess, people may show back up and reclaim them. But as far as the starting point, I think the ordinance that's proposed is a reasonable start to clear the streets and bring a little predictability back to downtown. Thanks.
Thank you. Tyler Jackson, followed by Duncan Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Councilors, for letting us speak today about something that has become really close to all of our hearts. It's interesting. I'm from Ward 8, but I have a business in downtown Salem, and I get to be around this every day and over for the last 10 years. And it's been, in the last maybe 4 years, it's encompassed maybe an hour of my day, maybe an hour and a half of my day. And it's been wonderful to, through that time and being on some committees, being part of the task force, joining everybody at different events around and learning from everyone, to see where I was to where I am now and my feelings related to the homeless in downtown. There was a lot of fear and anger in my heart earlier. And now I've started to get into the idea that maybe that was just how I felt about homelessness. And then now it's evolved into how I think others have started to have some optimism about maybe we all feel the same way. And we're starting to feel more about what's going on currently. And it's changed me. It's changed the way that I look at this situation and go, well, maybe we can share. Maybe it doesn't have to be all, nothing, and then some. It has to, I think we can share and share together. And not everybody's going to be happy because it's not open carte blanche for everyone, but maybe a little sharing is going to work. And it's going to take all of our participation. It's going to take all of our money. It's going to take all of our time to help everyone. But right now, I see a guy on the side of the street that's asking for money. I'm afraid to give him money. I just don't think he's going to use it for his life. He's going to use it for something that is available on the streets a lot easier and that we see people using all the time downtown. If you work downtown, you've seen the usages, and you can't ignore it. But I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. It's been an optimistic week. It's going to take all of us, though, and I think this, I like what Brandon brought up about, what about a tent or something that we can do, take care of the rain, take care of the goodies, bring all your stuff along, and then let's figure out and use the CLI as a mechanism to figure out what's going on and to see if we can help you. And Salem is a town that helps, so let's see if we can help you. Also, if this is going to work, we need to figure out how to stop the buses bringing people to town, because the Flex bus works. It's $5 from Portland to Salem, and it should be cut off or at least drop off in a place that we can make sure that who's getting off is getting off for transportation and not getting off to take advantage of our new system that we have a chance of making. But thank you. Good work, guys. Keep working.
Counselor?
Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for
Tom.
coming down, and thanks for what you've contributed to downtown.
Thanks for not giving us the corona.
Yeah. Don't shake my hand.
Good luck, Nikki.
I guess I'm using you because a lot of other people testified about various things. And are you, clearly you're in support of the proposed ordinance, and this is with the understanding that it's not going to be effective until there is some sheltered outdoor or indoor space available to the public the time of the conduct ordinance appears. And so with that understanding, and also there needs to be toilet availability, and within 30 days, the staff must present a plan for permanent public restrooms in the downtown that can be feasibly maintained. So with those provisos that we are going to try to do something to share, as you said, you would still support the ordinance as presented here tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's 4 years ago, I would have said no. 4 years ago, I would have said, there's no way that I can share. I want all or nothing. I'm absolutely excited with what Kara came up with and what she laid out, what Councilor Hoy, and it talks to the shared relationship. Is it everything? Gosh, no, but solving this is not going to work. But I'm super excited that that is what came out, and I am excited that we could maybe echo it around the U.S. and other cities that are our size and have our situation. So again, thank you. And I'm behind it right now. I'm optimistic for it. So yeah. Any other questions? Or please?
Thank you, Tyler.
All right, thanks, guys.
Duncan Thomas, followed by Gene Hendren.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Mayor, Council, thank you for having this meeting. I'm Duncan Thomas. I'm a resident, I believe, of Ward 4. We just moved here this past summer. Spent the last 30 years of my career working for the federal government in Washington, D.C., so my wife and I were very charmed by the city and really liked it when we came here to visit, and we're very happy to be living here. I did want to express some concerns about, I tried to look for information on this issue coincidentally today, and I couldn't find anything on the city website, and apparently there was a commission that was supposed to be investigating this to issue some kind of report back in 2018 or 2019. I couldn't get a copy of the report online. I couldn't find anything about it. I called the housing office here in town. They knew nothing about it. So I found out about this meeting tonight and found out this issue was on the agenda, so I thought I would come down and just speak to it briefly. Just from our perspective as new residents of town and having seen this issue, obviously everywhere around the country. One of the things that drew us to this area was we really enjoyed the downtown area, and it seemed like so many downtowns of cities across the country, they're just in disrepair. We felt that this area here showed a lot of promise and kind of felt like it was on the upswing. I am concerned that over the past couple of months, the homeless issue downtown has gotten so bad that I won't let my wife drive down there by herself. When I go down there and accompany her to some appointments that we usually have in the mall area down there, I drop her off, I escort her into where she's going, and then I wait. I used to actually go out and walk around all downtown everywhere by myself, and I had no problem with that. I had no issue with it. But I don't feel comfortable doing that today. Do we have compassion? Absolutely. We've got a grandson who is, intermittently homeless all the time. It's a tough, tough problem. I would urge you to pass this ordinance because I think we have to try something. I would urge you to rescind that $250 fine. I don't see how anybody's actually going to pay it. I would reduce it to something like $10 or $15, $25 or whatever, something that somebody might reasonably expect to pay. And I'd also be willing to entertain paying new taxes. I have no problem paying new taxes out of either property or however you want to raise taxes. I don't know how we do it in Oregon yet. I'm still figuring it out. But I'd be happy to make more of a financial contribution in that regard to help solve this issue because these folks need a place to go. And the gentleman that spoke earlier, I don't want them to be out of the way and not seen. That's not right either. So we have to find a way to work with this, and I'm happy to contribute more.
Thank you very much. Gene Hendren, Gregory Gregg, Linnell Wilcox.
I brought this for you tonight, just in case anybody wants to try it on. It has everything in it that I need to sleep out.
Your name and where you live? We didn't get your name or where you live.
Sorry. Jean Hendren, I live in West Lynn, but I couldn't walk away from the people on your streets who were dying and losing limbs, so here I am.
You're going to have to talk into that mic, would you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody wants to try that on? Help yourself. That's what you're asking these people to walk around with all day because they have to leave their bed behind, their clothing behind, their food, any shelter, and that's all lightweight gear because I used to be able to afford to buy that kind of stuff, but now that I'm spending at least $2,000 a month here trying to help your homeless get into homes and get to the doctor and get their prescription medications, it's a little bit hard for me to spend money on camping gear. I haven't been able to talk to you since I went down to Texas and saw the Camp Rat down there, the tent town. The responsible people there are handling that very well because they have a choice of who stays and who goes. If somebody's not responsible, they're not welcome there. So, there are different levels of tent camps, and you can have a responsible tent camp. Another community I visited was Community First, which was absolutely beautiful and had tiny homes in it. And then, of course, in 3 minutes, I'm not going to be able to tell you all about those things. I have posted a lot of pictures on my Facebook page, however. And tonight I wanted to talk about my concerns that people are not going to have any storage. If they could even get their backpack to that storage. Just off the top of my head, there are 5 people downtown in wheelchairs. So it's going to be hard for them to throw their backpack on their wheelchair and get it to storage. But right now, there's no storage for anybody for anything. So just imagine coming home, you're tired, you want to go to bed, but you don't have a bed and you don't have any bedding. So you just kind of huddle up against the wall there, and you wake up in the morning and your shoes are gone, your phone is gone, your prescription medications are gone. That's what these people live with every day, every day. Total insecurity. I took one person to the hospital this morning, visited another person at the hospital this morning. The person I took was crying on the way there. She was crying on the way back. I dropped her off at Safe Sleep. I hope they have a bed for her. She wants shelter desperately, absolutely desperately. I'm going to have to leave as soon as I finish here because I have 2 prescriptions to pick up for her.
Thank you. Gregory Gregg.
I'm speaking against the ordinance. My name is Greg Gregg. I'm a resident of West Salem. I know there's great pressure on the city council members to address the angst of the downtown business owners about our homeless population. There are many reasons people wind up homeless. It is not a problem of business, but of community. I know that this city has been presented with offers from groups in the community to begin building transitional housing with privately donated funding. And I know the answer is we can't do anything about the zoning laws. We supposedly live in a democracy. That means laws and ordinances that should be changed when they no longer serve the needs of the community. My father spent some time in his youth living in a Cherokee community in Oklahoma. He told us that there are those among the Cherokee who believe that everything has a spirit. Rocks, trees, animals, even places. There are places, for instance, that are unpleasant to be. They feel wrong, cold, and uninviting. When I came to Salem 20 years ago, it was a good place to be, but things have changed. It is difficult for me now to condemn the way we treat our most vulnerable among us, because Salem is my home and I share the responsibility. The Cherokee in Oklahoma are not nearly as affluent as the community of Salem, but they would never permit a member of their community to be without shelter in the winter. I would appreciate some guidance from our elected officials on how to deal with the shame I feel for my community.
Thank you. Linnell?
Hi, my name is Linnell, and I'm in Ward 4. We all have a shared goal to have safe and passable sidewalks and a thriving downtown. Yet the proposal to use downtown day centers and a tent at Marion Square Park as places for downtown campers to be doesn't seem cost-effective or viable to accomplish that. It seems like another game of kick the can with twice daily moves to and from permitted places that increases hardship, trauma, and barriers for people to make the very progress that we wish for people to make. The combined day center and tent capacity estimates reflect standing room numbers in some places, numbers that are not realistic from a practical perspective. The proposed ordinance leaves people in other areas of the city away from downtown without options for places to be during the ban hours. We already have rules about behavior that can be implemented as needed, and we can implement more rules if needed if there are gaps. The proposed ordinance makes exceptions for people with physical disabilities, yet the logistics of twice daily kick the can would be untenable for many people with invisible disabilities as well. It doesn't change the reality that people will still be sleeping under awnings at night with the same ripples of that during the daytime. We all want safe and clear passage and a thriving downtown, so please implement the restroom and lockers that your own downtown homeless task force recommended, And please repeal the camping ban except for downtown and neighborhoods so we're not creating that additional hardship. And please see how many projects you've invested in that are already playing out with more to come. Many people I'm talking to are receiving housing vouchers and getting apartments every week that I talk to people. With the new 2 downtown coordinators and the projects you've already invested in, the seeds that you've planted are blooming. And those plants in our downtown will thrive very soon from less expensive and more effective strategies. At our homes, we can sweep dust under the rug and throw clutter into our closets so that we look pretty for company. I hope we don't do that with real people, real hearts, and real lives, but your flowers are blooming, and I'd pay more in taxes to take care of it in other ways than sit lie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Russell.
Hi, I'm Scott Russell, Ward 5. I'd like to thank the city for all that you have done for the homeless. There's been many things, more than I can list, HRAP being one of them. Last December, the city passed a camping and property ban ordinance to resolve the situation of the 30-plus tents and citizens stationed on Arch's property. One problem among many others with that ordinance is that it extends citywide for an issue that was occurring only in the downtown area. Please don't make the same mistake again by adopting a sit-lie ordinance throughout the entire city in order to deal with the problem that exists in the downtown area only. Please don't punish our unsheltered citizens who exist outside of the downtown area, where there was never a problem of obstructing sidewalks, etc. If you must pass a sit-and-lie ordinance, then limit it to the downtown area only. Also, please lift the camping and property ban throughout the city, entire city, except the downtown area, which is what should have been done back in December to deal with the Arches and other tent settlements that were a problem only in the downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Scott, thanks for coming down. I don't have a question. I just have to give you a little bit of feedback. I live out in Ward 6, which is East Salem, and I have to tell you the number one complaint I hear from my constituents is about people sitting and lying on the sidewalks on Lancaster, on Sunnyview, on Center Street, on lots of places. This is not just a downtown problem. I just wanted to clear the record.
Okay. Hirsch. Saxer. There he is.
I'm Hirsch Sangster, Kaiser. I'm here not to talk about the homeless situation.
Thank you.
But I'm here to talk about the Monster Cookie. The Monster Cookie is the oldest recreational bike ride in the state of Oregon. It was started here 44 years ago. It goes from the state capitol building to Shampooey State Park and then returns passing a third state park. We have between 1,200 and 2,000 cyclists. It's one of the biggest Northwest events. Travel Oregon has labeled it as one of the best, and we've been ranked one of the third best supported bicycle rides in the state of Oregon, with Reach the Beach and Cycle Oregon beating us out, but we have the best cookies. It's called the Monster Cookie because we have cookies, cookies, cookies. And it is April 26th, starting at 8 o'clock. The registrar in charge is Councilor Hoy. And so I would encourage anybody that wants to ride a bike 62 or 34 miles or just get some cookies, meet us at the Capitol building.
Great. Yes, Tom.
Thank you, Hirsch. I will be there again,
good.
riding.
I'll save a big monster cookie for you.
Perfect. But I also want to congratulate you for recently being named the first citizen of Kaiser.
Thank you very much.
And as I read it, it was mostly for bicycle activities, and I appreciate what you and the Salem Bicycle Club are doing, and I look forward to another ride.
They really surprised me. I think Councilor Natke was there that night. I was supposed to be giving a talk on transit. That's how they got me there, and my wife didn't even know. And they really caught me. And
they pulled out, well, we didn't get all our kids for Christmas, and all the kids were there. And so it was, I got caught.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Hirsch, for coming down and highlighting this great bike ride. For you, it's true, for I think the 5th or 6th year in a row, I'll be running the registration down there at the Capitol on the 26th in the morning, so come on down. And if you're not sure whether you can do a 62-mile bike ride or not, don't think of it as a 62-mile ride. Think of it as 4 15-mile rides. It's much easier if you can wrap your head around that easier. You ride to the first rest stop, 15 miles, ride to the next rest stop is 15 miles, ride back to the rest stop, 15 miles back to the Capitol, another 15 miles, and you're done. Piece of cake.
And I do have to emphasize that we try to get everything locally. The cookies are all baked locally. The T-shirts are all done locally. The fruits and vegetables, all local. We have the Salem Police involved. They get a box of cookies afterwards. Jerry doesn't know that yet. And Kaiser Police, Marion County is involved, and we may, again, have 2 off-duty state police involved in the ride. So we try to make it as safe and as well-supported ride as we possibly can. And after 44 years, we've learned a couple things.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second by Councilor Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't realize we were quite there yet. So the consent agenda includes item 3.1A, which is the draft city council meetings from February 24, 2020. Item 3.2A, which is a resolution dedicating properties acquired for use as public right-of-way adjacent to Broadway Street Northeast, River Road Northeast for a private development project in the city of Salem. Item 3.2B, resolution number 2020-8, dedicating certain real property adjacent to Strong Road Southeast and Lindbergh Road Southeast as public right-of-way. Item 3.2C, resolution number 2020-9, dedicating certain real property for a future street located between Mill Creek Drive Southeast and Almsville Highway Southeast as public right-of-way. Item 3.2D is a resolution 2020-10, dedicating property acquired for use as public right-of-way adjacent to Orchard Heights Road Northwest for a private development project in the city of Salem. Item 3.2E, resolution number 2020-11, dedicating land at the north end of Ponderosa Drive South, as shown on Skyline Village Phase IV. 3.2F is a grant application for Bill Riegel Park Phase II development. Item 3.2G, resolution number 2020-13, dedicating tract A on the recorded plat of Cascadia Industrial Park as public right-of-way. Item 3.3A is an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Corrections. Item 3.3B, Willamette Valley Communication Center lease for property located at 595 Cottage Street Northeast. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Mr. Manager, could you talk just a bit about 3.2A to 3.2E? I think there was some interest in what that's all about.
Yes, actually, Public Works Director Fernandez could summarize the property actions that are on the consent agenda. Thank you.
So I'd like to ask City Engineer Brian Martin to come. You know, he sits through a lot of meetings and never gets to come up to the podium, so, you know.
But Brian doesn't have someone backing him up.
So, well, he does. He has a little someone special sitting next to him.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilors. Brian Martin, City Engineer. So these are really just basic properties when the city acquires as part of the land development. So it's real property. It's not public right-of-way until we dedicate it as public right-of-way. So the 3.2A was a development up off of Broadway and River Road. The developer is required to warranty deed property to us to expand the right-of-way for those streets. And they did transfer that property by deed, and we're just converting it to public right-of-way. 3.2E, I need to look at real quick.
Brian, what's the concept? What'll it be used for? This
For street purposes.
Okay.
It's really just street
at some
purposes.
point, the widening of.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And 3.2E was a development that went in. There were two things happening there. There was a 1-foot reserve strip from a prior subdivision, which was not dedicated as public right-of-way at the time, so that people couldn't access that private property Now that that property is being developed, we're converting that reserve strip to public right-of-way, and the owner's dedicating additional property for future street public right-of-way as well. So it's really just a transaction of the city owns property. It could be a park, a storm drain facility. Those things really aren't public right-of-way. But we also acquire property for streets, and for streets we need it to be public right-of-way, so it's open for public use.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Hoy, were you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the explanation. I think it would be helpful in the future if you could just put a little bit of that narrative that you just gave us verbally in the staff report, and that would wouldn't require you to be at the meeting to answer a bunch of questions.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
We will.
Well, yes, Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor Bennett. I just wanted to make a quick comment about the Bill Riegel Park. I'm just very excited to see this on our agenda, and I intend to support it. The materials that were provided to us include a letter from the Salem Parks Foundation. And it states that the development of Bill Riegel Park will contribute significantly to the livability of this neighborhood. And I just wanted to underscore that because parks are so incredibly important for quality of life for everyone to enjoy. This is particularly important in areas like the Bill Riegel Park area because it says here that the neighborhoods are there isolated from playground facilities, even from school playground facilities. And so I just welcome and support opportunities like this because whether you're a new family who wants to have a place to take your kids in a stroller or a senior citizen who wants to enjoy active living, ideas like this make our community healthier, both for the physical and the mental health benefits. So I was delighted to see this on our agenda, and I look forward to supporting it.
Great. You too?
Just in regards to Bill Riegel Park, thank you very much for that. I was there at the groundbreaking, and the neighborhood speaks to it frequently and how much it's appreciated because we have a major geographical formation in between it and the other nearest locations that someone could go play, known as Highway 22. So a lot of people worked very hard to get that facility in place, and it's nice to see it actually being able to be expanded to its final configuration, at least for the time being.
Great. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we will go to our special orders of business. Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move City Council adopt resolution number 2020-14 to extend the declaration of emergency until August 25th, 2020 to allow United Way's Safe Sleep Women's Shelter to continue to operate at an expanded capacity of 19 and continue the vehicle camping pilot program.
Second.
Second by Nordike. That's what you get being tired after a trip. You're just, okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is an important extension of this declaration. It allows Safe Sleep to go through some of the land use process that's happening. And so this will just allow them to continue status quo until that process is able to conclude. Also, it extends the vehicle camping pilot program, which I will say has been slow to take off. And I'm really pleased to tell you that during this meeting, or maybe just before I sat down, I got an email from a group that's working on getting some program or getting some locations going within Salem for this pilot program. So I think it's actually going to take off here real soon.
Great, great. That's good news.
Yeah.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also have some questions for staff, and I think that might be you, Mr. Wright, about, there's twice in there, it says camping pilot program has received little interest, and vehicle camping continues to be an issue throughout the city. And I take it that it continues to be an issue because people are still camping in their vehicles. I'm just curious as to what kind of outreach we've done and your view as to why this is not taking off when there's clearly a need.
So in terms of outreach, whether it be Brady trying to work with various partners that he knows firsthand throughout the city, various nonprofits, for example, or even our work with our neighborhood liaison, Irma Dowd, in announcing this repeatedly to our neighborhood associations. We've done everything we can with the connections that we do have to let this be known throughout, and also to let people know that the barrier here for this is very, very low. We just need a registration in order to understand where the locations are and how we can then monitor them easily. So our outreaches include everything from every nonprofit partner that we know of throughout the city, as well as every neighborhood association that we can reach out to as well. In terms of the reasons why it hasn't been adopted, it's hard for me to say, and when we've spoken about this to others, what I hear indirectly from my staff is that essentially everyone takes this information, they thank us for it, and they see it to be a good idea, and then they, I assume, go and deliberate with their partners and make their decisions. But I have no basis to suggest the reasons why it hasn't been taken on.
If I could have a follow-up, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned outreach, and I didn't hear you say anything about the city's website and that sort of stuff. Is there some material on the website for that? And if so, could it be highlighted a little more than it is? And if not, could we get something on there?
The registration form, as well as some basic information, I know have both been on the website for a little while now. And as far as trying to make it more prominent, we can see what we can do.
Great, thanks.
Councilor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to just underscore Councilor Anderson's request for maybe more outreach. I think something as simple as maybe a letter to area churches could be really helpful, because I have a feeling that a lot of folks don't know about it, and I think probably churches are our #1 place that might take advantage of this program, especially in the beginning. So if we could just send a letter out maybe to, if there's an association that covers them all, or to individual churches, I think that would be a fairly low-cost way to do this.
Yes.
I would certainly agree, and I think I've stated before, when I lived in Eugene, our church had people in the parking lot that became part of our community, and I think it's a terrific outreach, and it helps humanize statistics, which is part of the issue we've been talking about tonight on the new proposed ordinance.
Councilor Norda.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be voting in support of extending the emergency declaration because, for one, I do support the car camping expansion, and I do support stepped-up outreach efforts. There may be other groups we haven't considered who have spacious parking lots. I see spacious parking lots all over Salem. So I think there may be a variety of property owners with their full consent who might be interested in supporting this project. But also I'm supporting this because of Safe Sleep. I toured Safe Sleep. I've met with their executive director at United Way, and everyone from Rhonda Wolf at United Way on down is doing everything they can to support our homeless. And I am fully supportive of this because I know that Safe Sleep is a safe space for women in need. And a lot of times folks forget that our women homeless make up somewhere between 40 to 49% of our homeless in town. So having women-specific shelters is extremely important. We know that there are a lot of women fleeing domestic violence or sex trafficking. So that's why we'll be supporting the emergency declaration extension tonight.
Okay, any other?
This is Jackie from Ward 4. I also wanted to mention that I am also in support of this resolution, specifically because of the support it will provide for the Safe Sleep Shelter. Like Councilor Nord, I also toured the shelter and had an opportunity to walk through and meet with several of the volunteers who pretty much help out the shelter. And during our conversations, they had mentioned that it's been primarily at capacity most days. And and that was with when we had increased it to 19. So to know that we are going to at least extend it until August, it makes me. I am very happy to know that that is what our goal is, to make sure that we continue to provide a shelter space for our vulnerable women.
Righty, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Information reports. Anyone? You had one, yeah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just to confirm that item, I think it's 6E, concerning site review plan for South Salem High School. I have called that matter up for a council hearing.
You want to make a motion then?
Yeah, I move that we call up item 6E for a council hearing as opposed to a hearings officer decision.
Second.
Second by Nordyke. Any discussion?
No, there's not really, well, I guess I do. I can't not have discussion. South Salem High School is in the middle of a pretty tightly, densely packed neighborhood area, and I know there have been some concerns from the neighborhood group and others about what is happening there, and it just seems to me that we need a fuller and greater airing in front of the city council.
Okay. Councilor Kaiser?
Thank you. I will just add on that this is coming up in other wards as well, especially these schools that are in very dense, packed neighborhoods. So, yeah, I've been hearing the same thing. So I could see us reviewing a couple of these in the future.
Okay. All righty. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
No by Lewis. Motion passes. Anything else from the information reports? Okay. You're not hearing it? Okay. Councilor Leung, were you a yes vote on Anderson's motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're not always picking it up, so I may check in with you again. So, thank you.
Was this for, the yes for?
South
for
Salem,
the,
yeah, a hearing on South Salem High School.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, first reading.
Ordinance Bill Number 620, an ordinance relating to conduct on sidewalks, creating SRC 95715 and declaring an emergency.
Councilor Kaiser, are you going to?
I move first reading of ordinance bill number 6-20 relating to conduct on sidewalks.
Second by Hoy.
I would, to kind of speak towards the motion, a lot of what I said last time, I think that this is really trying to strike a balance and a middle approach. It's something that we have not tried in the past. It does not take away from anything else that we're doing as a community. We are continuing all of our other long-term efforts to get people housed. This is I hope to be a temporary solution so that we can help, I think, our downtown areas that are being very impacted by folks living on the sidewalks and in other areas of the city as well, as Councilor Hoy pointed out earlier. I think looking for a day space for people is something we have not really tried in the past as much as we have the shelter or the overnight shelter. And I think it's something that we need to try. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a staff report on this come back fairly quickly if enacted, just to see how it's going. And I wouldn't be opposed to adjusting along the way. But again, it's something I really hope that we won't need this in a year. I hope that we can go back to the legislature as soon as they convene and really start pushing all of this again to get the funding for the navigation center, to maybe even get that low barrier shelter in place. So, but I do see it as part of it's a puzzle piece, right, to the larger problem. And we need to try everything that we can. So I'm gonna support this, and hopefully we can get all the pieces enacted as quickly as possible.
Counselor, I'm very hopeful that when the governor calls the legislature back into special session, at the top of the agenda will be the homeless package from Speaker Kotek, and that includes the items you mentioned. So there may be a resolution sooner than the next regular session. I'm really hopeful. Counselor Hoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to underscore what you just said. And if folks who are listening in the audience here and at home, if you really want to have an impact on what's happening with our homeless situation, contact your legislator. Figure out who is your representative. Contact them. If they left the building, urge them to come back to the building. If they stayed, urge them to support this. We need the legislature to step up and do their part on this critical funding piece. We're going to step forward as a city and fill a gap here, but it's going to cost us a lot of money that we shouldn't have to spend. Because the legislature had been committed to this before they shut down. So I'm actually fairly irritated right now with our folks over in the Capitol building for not following through with this and doing what is right for not just Salem, but for several other communities. So please contact your legislators and ask them to support the legislation that it has been proposed by the Speaker of the House. And I too will be supporting this. It's not, I know that we're going to upset half of the audience tonight, half the people at home, whichever way we vote. I know that. I feel like our downtown is at a critical space, and this is not an ideal response to it, but it's the best one we have right now, and we have to do something. We have to change the dynamic downtown. I agree with Councilor Kaiser that in the future we can revisit this. If we need to adjust, we can adjust, but we have to make some changes downtown right now. Thank you.
Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, Mayor. So one of the things I would like to echo is to remind folks that under the terms of the ordinance, when you actually read the ordinance itself, it says that the restrictions in this ordinance are not enforced until the opening of additional daytime space that is protected from the elements and includes access to toilets. So we have to remember the fact that unlike previous iterations of the SITLI, there was no connection to additional day space. There was no connection to bathrooms. There was no connection to protection from the elements. So this is about pushing the city to create the additional day center space that we have so sorely needed for a very long time. I echo the comments that with the unfortunate fallout in the legislature, one of the casualties was House Bill 4001, which would have distributed tens of millions of dollars around the state. We were on the brink of a breakthrough in a statewide homelessness crisis. And I was one of many people who urged our legislature, and I went to our legislature 3 times this year to talk to legislators to urge support for this very project, for bringing cost-effective solutions to Salem. Another thing that I would like to point out, that under the terms of this ordinance, remember that the consequences of additional day space means that folks will have access to bathrooms, which means they can wash their hands, which means that they will have protection from the rain. And we all know springtime in Oregon can be very wet. So having this additional day space, telling folks that there is a safe and a dry place for them to go is safer for them. It is healthier for them. It is more dignified than sitting on the street. Having a place where social service workers know where to find them, where medical personnel know where to find them, where volunteers know where to find them. This is better, plain and simple. Even a temporary shelter space is better than a street corner without a bathroom and without protection from the elements. So I do see this as a step in the right direction, and we have to continue to carefully monitor the situation, because homelessness is a complex and nuanced problem. So that means that we as city officials need to stay on our toes. We need to continue to monitor the situation and make adjustments as needed, because people can be on the brink of homelessness one day and homeless the next day. They can be unsheltered one day and couch surfing the next. That's the reality of homelessness that the experts have shared with me. So that's why I'm supportive of this solution.
Thank you, Councilor Nankin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two things. One, I actually talked to my House rep yesterday regarding this and whether or not that's something the E-Board could do or whether or not it had to be in a short session, and she referred me to you, Mr. Mayor. But
All things are possible,
yeah,
Councilor.
we need to make sure that happens because essentially, as Councilor Nordyke mentioned, there are some caveats before this goes into effect. And there's been other material distributed regarding the cost of said, which is significant. And so just a couple questions in regards to that, mostly in regards to the structure that we're talking about at 7,000 square feet. How many people are we talking about needing to shelter during the day that are not able to be situated somewhere else right now? Do we have a number that, and a per square foot per person that we're trying to put in place for the day?
From our, I believe, daily outreach to the downtown blocks, the number has been consistently around 50 individuals. A outreach that was done on Friday, Thursday or Friday, of the Rite Aid blocks found 24 individuals that were using the sidewalk for shelter, for habitation. The general guideline for square foot per person in a shelter condition is 100 square feet. So the covering that has been provided to you, the quote that has been provided in the staff report would be for a 7,000 square foot cover, and that would provide coverage for 70 individuals.
And is that scalable then? If we're consistently seeing 25 or 30 people?
Remember, though, what Councilor Hoy mentioned. This is a phenomena in other parts of the city, and this will be a place available.
Sure, I'm just
as well.
wondering if we'll have some ability to react to usage.
And I think also another factor, councilors, would be the belongings that have been mentioned at previous meetings, previous discussions of this issue. So I think to have some additional space based upon those numbers from our outreach by the Salem Housing Authority and by Arches, to have some additional space, particularly as we bring storage units into use, would I think be advisable.
Two more follow-ups, if I may. In regards to security, is that a contracted outfit then that would be providing?
Yes.
Because that's like 4 times the amount of the rental, and it's a rental covering that we would be looking at? Or?
Yes. And as has been requested by counselors, certainly as we learn, as we adjust and have experience, certainly some of those purchase rental decisions can be reevaluated. The portable toilets are city-owned, for example. The information that has been provided to you for your consideration this evening does have a rental of a covering.
Okay, and then just my last comment is in regards to the restroom facilities, which I think are going to be the biggest pain in the room. No pun intended. But, we've had a lot of problem with them in the past, significant cost. It's almost the cost of a camp just for cleaning of those restroom facilities. And so knowing some of the issues that we've had in the past with those, I think that's where my largest concern
I think
lies as well.
And anyone can correct me, but I think we're really looking at these kind of porta potty type restrooms as an interim solution as we look for funding assistance from folks who've approached us from throughout the city to participate in the purchase of a Portland loo or one of those kinds of harder structures than a porta potty. So I think you have to look at this stuff on a kind of continuum. But
Sure.
We probably will. Everyone who's tried porta potties has had enough problems they quit using porta potties downtown, so we'll
I think the Portland
take a
Loo
look.
number was like 125,000 a year just for cleaning though as well.
They can be pretty expensive, yeah, but I do
above the,
realize
the
we're
original
looking
cost.
for, and I think really actively looking for an alternative. Councilor Hoy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to speak to a couple of the points. I would just remind council that this is, I think the numbers are worst case scenario. We have been talking with partners and lots of folks throughout the community who may or may not be willing to step up and help us. So I think that these numbers are really worst case scenario. So I would just keep that in mind also. I don't anticipate that we'll actually be spending all of the money that is talked about in the staff report, but we need to be prepared to just in case. And the other thing I would just like to say, that's back to the square footage discussion that we were having. So we also have to remember that Arches has expanded day room hours that will be an additional place for people to go in an expanded day room.
Not hours, expanded capacity.
Expanded capacity, but if the legislature comes through, there will be expanded hours.
Correct. The city's request to the legislature through our legislative delegation includes 24-hour, 7-day-a-week drop-in or day center capacity at Arches.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just kind of in that same vein, and that was my other question. If this funding becomes available from the legislature, will essentially our requirement for any kind of a shelter provision be diminished, as well as for a restroom facility during the daytime then, to where if we were still renting porta potties or owning porta potties and having someone clean them, to where we can take them back out of service and everything goes to Arches?
I just remind you of the comments of both Hoy and Kaiser, which is there will be potentially adjustments along the way, and we need to see what kind of public support, private support there are for the various kinds of things that are really going to be needed in a program like this. But I think that, and as funding becomes available and as Arches comes online, we may see adjustments that we'll want to make. But right now, we really need, at a minimum, 7,000 square foot of covered space for folks to really make this even work in its limited ability to provide the kind of shelter we wish we could offer. Councilor?
Thank you. I presume you were recognizing me?
Yeah,
okay, I want to speak to the ordinance, but before I do, I would like to propose an amendment to it. And I move that section 2.Q, which is the civil penalty of up to civil penalty of $250. I move that provision be amended to say the penalty for violation of this ordinance is a fine of up to $150.
Second, Kaiser.
Thank you. This has been a concern that has been expressed. I can see the city attorney looks like he might be moving to talk, but the way I read that, the fine is $250. It doesn't place anything less than that. And what we've heard tonight is that this is pretty much an impossibility. So I don't know if we want to be handing out $250 fines that are never going to get paid, and then that leads to more problems, at the end of the line here for people who don't pay it. So I propose just up to $150, and I would accept an amendment to the amendment to go back to the 250 figure, but I think we ought to say up to.
Did you want to speak?
Yes, just real briefly. So the way the citations work in general, not just for this, but for any ticket that someone gets, is that there's a fine amount that's in our code. It's been in our code for quite a while. It's $250 for an infraction. When that goes to court, there's the ability for the judge to reduce, and that's typically what happens. For the smoking prohibition that was put in place a few years back, we set the fine for that at $50. But it's not an up to number. That's up to the judge to decide whether it should be reduced or not. So I would highly encourage you not to say up to.
Okay, well, then I guess what you're telling me is this is not a fine that it would be automatic if they're cited. It would have to go to court.
The citation would be for whatever the amount is in the ordinance. So whether it's $250 or if you want to choose a different amount, that's fine. But then the judge has the ability to reduce that.
Okay, and let's assume that the person who was issued the citation does not show up to court. Is the judge still reduce that 250 amount, or is it just sort of become an automatic thing then?
That would be up to the judge's discretion. I assume it would be for the amount listed in the ordinance.
Well, I hope Judge Aiken is listening to this, and I'm sure she is, and I'm also sure she's aware of the situation here and aware of a lot of times where the municipal court imposes fines and they're never paid. So with the understanding that the practical effect of it is 250 is the ceiling, not a ceiling and a floor, I withdraw my amendment.
Okay, thank you. Who's the second? Kaiser, is that okay? Okay.
Now, may I
I'm
speak?
sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
go
may I
ahead.
speak to it? You know, we've heard from various people that this is a national problem, and it certainly is. And it's due to several factors that are way beyond our control, and I've discussed them before, and I'm not going to mention them again in any detail. But the national problem, because of various things that have happened in the last 20 years, it basically has metastasized down here in Salem. And we have to deal with the situation, even though we have no control over most of the factors that led to this. I would also say that I agree with Councilor Hoy, but I would not say fairly irritated. I would say extremely irritated at the legislature, and especially because the mental health and the social service provisions are providing for those are not the city's responsibility, they're the county's responsibility and the state's responsibility. And that hasn't happened yet, so again, we're stuck with it. I was opposed, well, one more thing. The camping ban is really, it's not going to happen. I heard people say, let's rescind the camping ban, and it's just politically not happening from this council. And in December, I made a proposal. I moved to rescind the camping ban except for downtown and city parks and residential areas, and that proposal was shot down pretty dramatically and clearly. So we could move to do that again tonight, but it's just not going to pass this council. So that's just not realistic. It is the gap that is the problem between now and when all the other things we have, including the state, non-existent state funding, that's where the problem is. Between now and when all the affordable housing that we have in the pipeline, including something we approved tonight at the North Campus, until that happens, that's where the problem is. I was opposed to the sit-lie ordinance as it was originally proposed a year and a half or 2 years ago, because to me it was a status crime. It was based on who you were and not what your conduct was. And I think with the changes produced by Councilor Kaiser and Councilor Hoy during the time I was off avoiding the coronavirus are very good, and it is now directed toward conduct, not toward status. You know, I'm going to support this. I wish there was something more we could do, but we're stuck with a horrible situation, and I think this is making the best of it, which is still not a good situation, but I appreciate Mr. Jackson and his discussion of we need to share a bit, and I know in my business the best compromise or the best settlement is when each side of the issue is a little unhappy with the way it comes. So I am going to support this, and I agree that we need to have constant checkups, and I hope that we can get the legislature back in session to give us the money. And I know I encourage the private folks in the city who potentially can step up here and help us out with the funding. And finally, I will note that the way I looked at the cost of the coverage per month and costs for security, I multiplied that by 12, and it comes up to $292,200. And when we earlier had the nascent proposal to go back to the churches, and we were prepared to spend $213,000 on that, and that was just for till March 31st, from December to March 31st. So we got a whole year for, $70,000 more. So that seems like a good bargain for us. And I also anticipate, as Councilor Hoy and Councilor Kaiser have said, that's the outside limit, and hopefully with private people that we could potentially step up, and with the state legislature, all these things will drive that figure down from the top figure. So I'm in support of this.
Great, thank you. Councilor Lewis?
Well, I'm going to reluctantly support the motion. I still have what I consider grave concerns. The first one, we've already talked a little bit, the outdoor, the daytime space, 7,000 square feet, maybe enough for 70 to 90 people. But yet we will have, at the time that that's opened, people telling us it's not enough because we have over 800 people that need day space. So are we going to have to wait until we build 10 day shelters, or are we going to go and implement the sit and lie when we only have one? That's going to be a debate that we're going to have to deal when it comes. Second thing that's of concern to me, and it's also apparently a concern to the staff, to eliminate the exclusion penalty basically takes potentially the teeth out of this ordinance. And any ordinance that you pass that you can't enforce is useless. So what I'm hoping, and I'm hoping this is true with the police department, is that they will recognize this sit and lie as an ability to up the ante in the way that they deal with the folks that are living on the sidewalks in downtown. Because after all, for me, that's the goal, is not to have anybody living on the sidewalks of downtown Salem at any time.
Councilor Nanki?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to kind of flash back a bit on the penalty valuation, and the chief, when he first came down, it's like that is not the intent of this ordinance. Is to give them the ability to say move along to someone, to actually even let us interact with them. And I don't see us implementing this except for extreme cases where we're truly talking about conduct, which was kind of the final end of what the police chief was putting out there. With that in mind, again, I'm reluctantly supporting this. Again, it comes back to the funding component on the front end. I would prefer to see the exclusion potential in there still, and I would hope that staff will come back to us and let us know what the impacts and downsides of not having that in are, and the potential down the line to potentially re-include that in as well. But we need to get people off the streets downtown during the day. We are destroying a large segment of our economy, and we need to address that first and foremost. And if we have to pay some money in the interim before the state actually comes up and makes us whole to provide other services, then that's the way it's going to be.
Very good. Councilor Leung, did you have anything?
Thank you, Mayor Bennett. So on Sunday, March 1st, I had walked alongside two homeless advocates, and we were downtown distributing sandwiches, gloves, trash bags to people who offering it to people. And during the walk, I spoke to at least 30 individuals who were on the street. I was asking how they were doing and how they were being treated. Some of the main common things that seemed to come up was that a number of them mentioned that they were on the housing wait list. For people who are watching and those who are present, there's the wait list currently, from my understanding, for housing is at least 3 to 4 years out. No one knows what number they are on the wait list. I also have personal experience with this because I was on that wait list for about 3 years before I officially withdrew because I was over income. There are also other individuals there who were houseless for years, some due to abuse, some because of a medical bill or other debts. There was a job loss, was frequently cited. Many of those individuals who you see on the streets grew up or lived in or near Salem for many years. Those individuals are members of our community. The idea or stereotypical message that they're drug addicts or lazy saddens and concerns me greatly. These are individuals who are our brothers, our sisters, our uncles, our aunts. They could even be our grandparents. And we're failing them. I am, citing the words of Councilor Hole, and I think a few of the other councilors, this is not an ideal ordinance. And I also have some concerns in terms of how it will be enforced equally. How will people know who is homeless and who is not? Who will be told to move? For example, what if I sat down? What if someone in the audience sat down? How will, let's say, officers know who is houseless and who isn't houseless? So there's just some other questions that I would like the councilors to think about in terms of how it will be enforced.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. Yes, Councilor Kaiser.
Thank you. I'd just like to respond, Councilor Leon, to your question. This ordinance applies to everybody in the community. So if I went down and sat on the sidewalk and was wanting to be there all day long, I could not do that between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. And I would hope that an officer would approach me and say, hey, do you know we have an ordinance about this? And they would say, but you can go to here, here, and here. So I just wanted to really clarify that this ordinance applies to every single person in the city of Salem.
Councilor Nanki?
One last thing, which I think is a question that then will be on everyone's mind. How long to make sure all the provisions in Section 2 are in place? I mean, we have an emergency sitting on top of this ordinance bill. When will people see something happen?
Well, I'm going to put Mark Bechtel on the spot, and if Mark is able to answer that question this evening, he'll do so. If not, we can provide a more definitive date for council at a later date, certainly before second reading.
Okay. So within the next 2 weeks, we're going to see, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, Mark Bechtel, Public Works Operations Manager. Essentially, you know, we're looking for bids and for the different rental costs and availabilities and so forth. And when we get the green light to go, we can contact our vendors and move forward with whatever rentals we need to secure.
What's the timing on that? Can it happen very quickly if it's passed in 2 weeks? I mean, will you be reporting to us the material and personnel are available to put this on the ground at Marion Square Park or wherever? And
We're pretty confident we could install a tent cover and have the portable toilets in place within 2 weeks, sure.
Okay. Councilor?
I just want to mention one more thing, and that was a concern that folks had was about storage, which has been a problem we've had from the get-go, and it's been something that was addressed by the Downtown Homeless Task Force, and that is a problem. And you know, my explanation of it is if all the worldly goods you had in the world could be stored in one grocery cart or two, you never want to leave leave your site. And a storage capacity would overcome that. And I do note in the staff report, and I guess I'd ask the city manager to comment on it. It says, while not included in our earlier motion, city will be adding storages at locations throughout the downtown. And I would appreciate it, Mr. City Manager, if you could tell us how that is moving forward.
Kristen Rutherford, Urban Development Director, can share the plan with council this evening.
Good evening. So we have one project that has been in the works in partnership with Arches, where we plan on putting bike lockers as storage units on their property. That project has been delayed because it's tied to the completion of their interior work, because they have all these pods right now that are currently in their parking area. So we're moving forward with them on the procurement, but the timing of the installation and availability and management of all of that is going to be contingent on when those pods get removed. So those will likely be removed here within the next few weeks as their project is completed. Procurement on the bike lockers is about an 8-week process. So it's not going to be immediate. And then we are also looking at procuring additional bike lockers to locate around the downtown. We're still working on finalizing those locations and whether or not any of those would be in parks so that we can have added capacity around the downtown area.
Yes.
Could you define bike lockers, please?
Yes, they are enclosed and kind of rectangles or cubes that are normally used for storing bikes in. We do have a few of these that are in some of our parking garages that are already being used to store possessions.
And how many shopping carts could fit in one bike locker area?
It's not likely that the full shopping cart, depending on the type, will fit in. The kind that we're looking at putting at Arches are more open and not the divided type. And so we're thinking that a full shopping cart could fit into those.
Okay.
But the ones that are currently being used for storage throughout the downtown and parking garages, people are not putting putting their shopping carts in there because they're using it as permanent storage. So they don't need the wheels to move everything around.
Okay, one final question. I know at one point during the homelessness task force, there was some idea that perhaps the city had other property in the urban renewal area that was currently not being used that could be used for storage of the type we're talking about. Was that true, or was that you're looking at that, or what's the situation there?
We don't currently have property or building space that could be used for storage. There is property that we are looking at that would be tied to some other improvements as well that could provide additional storage.
Counselor, I want you to know for 4 or 5 years, I've been asking them regularly if they have a building yet, and every time a building comes up, I'm asking, could we use it? And so far, it's reasonable what I'm hearing back, but the answer has been steadily no place for storage yet. And the storage issue, I continue to believe, is one of the real fundamentals. I'm glad you're asking about it.
It sure is.
Yeah, it really is. And one I was glad the Housing Task Force took up as well, because it's one that I'm just absolutely convinced that storage issue is really a bottom line issue in this situation.
So the challenges with using a building, and first of all, are whether or not we have a building, but then additionally, the management, because somebody has to be there to accept it and then release the items at the end of the day or on an ongoing basis throughout the day. And so having something in proximity with another service provider, somebody who could manage that, is pretty important.
And allowing people to get at their possessions when they want to get at their possessions, not on our hours or somebody else's hours.
Right.
Yeah, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Rutherford, I'm hoping that we can start the procurement process now and not wait until the Arches Day Room project is complete.
So with the Arches, the storage that will be on the Arches site, they are handling that procurement. This is a grant to them. So this is tied to their capacity to go through that process. The bike lockers that we're looking at putting elsewhere within the city, that is a procurement that we will handle, and then based on decisions from council that we can move forward with.
I hope, along with Councilor Hoy, you will move ahead on our bike lockers immediately, because we don't know how long it'll take Arches to get this together. I would think as soon as we can get those, no matter how many you get, you don't even have to spot them around downtown. We'll put them under this tent. It's getting people a place to put their stuff so they can feel protected. Okay, Councilor Lewis?
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. If you could talk with the folks at Arches and say that the city council really would like them to not wait until the pods are moved to order the storage facilities, but use their best judgment, so once the pods leave, the storage units can come right away.
Okay, everybody ready? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, Leung is a nay. Motion passes. We will move this then along to second reading at a future date, or do you have a date certain this will be out?
It will be scheduled for March 23rd.
Okay, March 23rd, we'll be voting on this. Okay, second readings.
Ordinance Bill number 520, an ordinance declaring certain territory located at the southeast corner of Kuebler Boulevard Southeast and 36th Avenue Southeast, annexed to the City of Salem, prescribing zoning and withdrawing the territory from the Salem Suburban Rural Fire Protection District and Turner Fire District. Councilor Kaiser. Aye. Councilor Anderson.
Aye.
Councilor Nanki.
Aye.
Councilor Leung.
Aye.
Councilor Hoy.
Aye.
Councilor Nordike. Aye. Councilor Lewis.
Aye.
And Mayor Bennett.
Aye, motion passes. And I have two more public comments. Linnell, did you want to speak again on something besides homelessness? You marked other. Were you just messing with me?
No, no, no. It's not specific to City, but I guess I'll do it.
Well, let's not, because you've already spoken to Sitli, and you've spoken to homelessness generally. We got 10 emails today. Do you have another issue you'd like to talk about? Okay. Duncan Thomas. Okay.
He's over here.
Oh, Duncan, there you are.
Our new resident.
Our new resident. I'm back again with a different issue.
Okay.
Maybe something that'll save you some money. I don't know. I certainly hope so. So the other thing I noticed when we moved here and we moved into our home is that I can walk outside my front door and I can read a book.
Is that good?
No, that's
Oh, okay.
that's bad. I mean, we've got so many streetlights, at least in our neighborhood in the south, that you can walk reading a book for, I don't know, as far as you can walk.
Where are you?
I live on Summit View in the Ridge.
Okay.
The Renewal development, I guess is what they call it.
Okay.
Okay. And they've got the new LED street lighting they put in there.
Yeah.
So while those lights, I guess, save you money on electricity, they up the wattage to the point where, I mean, I can't sleep at night. I mean, I've had the engineers come out and they've installed some baffles, try to direct the light away a little bit. But I mean, you know, we didn't evolve over time and centuries and whatever to be in daylight 24/7.
Yeah.
So something I would encourage the city planners to do, something I would encourage you guys to take up. And granted, this isn't as important an issue as the homeless issue, other things that we're dealing with, but still, it's a city issue, I think. I would strongly encourage the use of fewer streetlights. I think there are too many. They're just placed. We live on a corner with a dead-end street. There's a street light on the dead-end street, and the only people that park there are my neighbors across the street. And I asked the city if they could turn that light off, and no, I can't, because, you know, we'll get sued. The line I got was, we'll get sued, people don't feel safe. You know, my other issue I'll bring up just very quickly, because everybody's tired and they want to get home. It's that old joke of who's standing between you guys and the door is me, right? So.
Hey, but it's only 8:20.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
good.
that's good, that's good. When we have visited some coastal areas along Florida, and I noticed that when you're along the coast there, lights are baffled,
Yeah.
right? And they're also dimmer.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I noticed, I was kind of surprised when we were driving down one of the streets near the beach last year, was that I can actually see people on the sidewalk better, because the light isn't shining in my eye and distracting me from where I'm trying to drive. So there was enough illumination to see people on the street. There was enough illumination to see where I was going on the street, you know, to make everything safe. But it wasn't so overly bright that I had a hard time, you know, seeing it. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but I certainly have a much more difficult time driving, you know, on the highway, everywhere else, where everybody thinks I have to have a light out here to be safer. So some of the things I'd like the city to consider are turning these things down, installing fewer of them, and considering a way to turn them off at some point at night, or at least turn off quite a few of them at some point later in the night, so that, you know.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very
Right.
much.
So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Lewis, do you want to?
Yeah, just one quick comment if I could, because I sympathize with your comment about not being able to sleep at night. We had the lights changed outside our house, and we got the blackout shades, and they truly work, and they're not very expensive.
No, I've got those too, and the light still comes in around the edges, and it's, but again, I agree, blackout shades are an idea, but it doesn't really solve the full issue that we're just not designed to live in 24/7 daylight.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the Public Works Director heard you. He's from Florida, too, and that adds to his interest. All righty, we are adjourned.